I was curious to see how different bosses would behave if we made them upside down in Super Mario 3D World. Different bosses behave in different ways, so let's take a look at them. Bowser doesn't want to be upside down, so instead, I put him at a 90-degree angle so he is driving straight down towards the earth. He pauses once he reaches the bridge, he roars, and then he sinks into the bridge like it's quicksand. I don't know if he was trying to taunt us, or if he was waving out and trying to reach for help. I went to the World 2 Blockade with the giant Galoombas, and I saw an outline of where the Galoombas normally are, but I couldn't find them. I was wondering if they fell through the level, but then I realized they're not below us, they're above us. Just like the ceiling Goombas in my past video where I made a bunch of enemies and objects in Super Mario 3D World upside down, these Galoombas float up to the ceiling when you make them upside down. At the World 2 castle, Mario is getting ready to be shot out of this cannon, and you can see the very normal looking tanks in the distance, which are not upside down. Once the level loads, you can see that the first tank is flipped upside down, and it's rotated along the base of the tank, so the rest of the tank is actually below the level right now. There are floating crates above the tank where the crates normally rest, and if you break this crate, you can see a floating pile of wood. I raised the second upside down tank a bit higher so that you could get a closer look at it. The next tank is at an angle, and the tanks being at an angle like this doesn't impact their ability to drive in a straight line. I made the Boom Boom boss upside down and higher up, but once he appears, he's only higher up during the cutscene, not upside down. The train level in World 3 also looks normal when you're fired out of a cannon, but the problem that Mario runs into when the train is upside down is that when the train starts to speed up, you can't keep up with the train or walk on top of the train, so Mario keeps dying. I tried playing as Toad, who is faster than Mario, and Toad could do pretty well. He could get caught on this part here, which kept pushing him forward, but the train was still too fast for Toad to keep up with. I edited the level so that it loads you directly at the boss, and here's what upside down Pom Pom looks like. You'll notice that parts of the floor are missing during this cutscene and the lighting is weird, and Pom Pom is actually upside down at first. But Pom Pom is another boss that once the boss fight starts, she is right side up. I was curious to see what the boss Brolder from the World 4 castle would be like, and the cutscene was pretty funny. Mario runs up, and the camera pans from down to up with the Brolders floating up from below the level out of the floor. You see the upside down enemies, and the fight starts. I wanted to see if I could beat the boss, and if anything special would happen after that, and I was doing pretty well. I got 2 hits onto the boss, one of the little Brolders got destroyed, so I was just waiting for the boss Brolder to spawn some more little Brolders. And here we go! You see 3 dust clouds pop up where the Brolders should be, but you don't see any Brolders. And after a moment, Mario gets some points. I couldn't believe it. I was thinking that the Brolders are getting spawned below the surface of the level, and then they're dying, and that's what makes Mario get these points. So I had to use the snapshot feature to make sure that this was the case. And by using some very careful snapshots bit by bit, I confirmed my suspicion. You can see the outline of the Brolders below the level, and then you can see them sinking, and then they poof into points for Mario. So you have to do this boss fight without relying on extra Brolders, since the extra Brolders spawn below the level and you can't use them. You have to be careful to not have the boss Brolder crush any of the little Brolders, and when the boss Brolder is spinning around, you need to be careful that the fireballs don't destroy any of the Brolders that you're trying to protect. But it is possible to do it if you're careful. The World 5 boss, King Ka-Thunk, does work if we make him upside down, and you can see him clipping through the level in the opening cutscene if he's upside down. The boss fight isn't any different otherwise, so I tried raising up King Ka-Thunk to see what would happen. And when he drops down, he doesn't drop onto the floor, he's in the air still. It's still possible to damage him when he's like this, and we can take out upside down, floating King Ka-Thunk without any problems. That's not a sentence I ever thought I'd say. In the World 6 castle level, you can see that the tanks are right side up when you're fired out of the cannon because they look fine when you're in this cutscene. But once you start the level, you can see the tanks are upside down and you can see it sticking slightly out of the side of the level. I added more upside down tanks and even tanks at different angles, and this movement and these tires might not make a lot of sense. It's funny to see these bars with spikes in them still facing the right way because they're a unique object and they're not actually part of the tanks. And here is a fun question. Which of these hurt more to step on? One of these spiky blocks or a block of Lego? I made this tank here have a very steep angle like this, and even with this very steep slope, Mario could still walk up it, which was really nice. The last tank was set to be at an angle here, so you can see what's behind this wall that you're supposed to explode. You might be wondering if the stamp is back here, and the stamp isn't here right now. You actually have to explode this wall, and that's what triggers a switch in the game to make the stamp spawn. It works in exactly the same way as other parts of the game, where defeating an enemy spawns a green star, where an object called an all-dead watcher is keeping track of if the wall has been exploded. I tried rotating Boom Boom in a different way for this fight, and the camera angle for the boss intro is actually facing the opposite way so that you can see the front of Boom Boom. When the fight actually starts, everything was normal, so I made the flag that you collect at the end of the level at an angle, so that Mario could celebrate defeating another boss who is at a different angle. In World Castle, I wanted to see how the Kathunks would behave if I gave them different paths to follow, and their more erratic movement makes it really difficult to predict where they're going, and it's harder to avoid them. As you might have seen in my last video where I made enemies upside down in Super Mario 3D World, Bowser doesn't want to go upside down, but he's okay with driving away from the level. Since Bowser's legs are always stationary, and his upper body always wants to face towards Mario, you can get Bowser to twist and turn in some weird ways. Bowser has definitely been doing his yoga practice. We dealt with Bowser a lot in my previous video, so we're going to head to the Bowser Express in World Bowser now. I made it possible to walk on the bottom part of this train, so maybe Mario's going to have a shot at clearing this level. These bully enemies fly across the screen quickly, and they're not an obstacle at all to Mario, who's safe up here on the train platform. As Mario continues along the level, there's a body of water here that's perfectly contained in nothing, because the train that normally holds this body of water is a separate object from the body of water itself. I'm honestly surprised that Mario has made it this far along the train, but Mario can't land on the head of the train to make it into the pipe. When Mario tries jumping here, he's pushed back quickly, and he's eventually pushed off the screen and he can't make it. I brought Mario to the boss of this level, and having an upside-down Pom Pom here gives us an interesting view of Mario. The camera really wanted to focus on the backside of Mario instead of Pom Pom during this cutscene, and Pom Pom shows up as upside down at the start of the fight, but then she's right side up for the rest of the fight again. The weird thing about Prince Bully is that he shows up upside down when you first enter the level, then he pops up, and he floats in the air while he's attacking and while he's doing his attacking animation, and Prince Bully only moves downward during his walking animation. I tried putting him at a different angle and loading up the game, and the same thing happens. He starts at his unique angle, and he moves towards his regular angle shortly after. The level Hisstocrat Returns in World Bowser has to be one of my favorite upside-down bosses that we have in this game. Here's the boss opening cutscene. The camera goes under the level, and after a moment, you see pink Hisstocrat explode downwards. And when the boss fight starts, you see just the bottom of pink Hisstocrat sticking out from above this central circle. The smaller snakes do also come out, and they're facing the right way up. But you'll notice that the plates on top of their heads look a bit weird. They're a different color, and that's because the plates are actually upside down. There is a snake with a partially broken plate here to the left, and if you step onto it, the snake starts attacking upwards. And since the pink Hisstocrat boss is facing down, the rest of the boss fight will be just this. There's nothing you can do because these snakes don't get reset, and you can't damage the pink Hisstocrat boss from here. So I thought, okay, let's try putting this boss at a 90-degree angle now instead of completely upside down. And Hisstocrat now appears from nowhere on the right and bursts out to the left. If you jump around here, you actually can get a hit on the boss's head, and then it disappears into the ground, or at least where the ground normally is. I was surprised that when the boss came back up, it was right side up. I was really shocked when I saw the little snakes come up because they looked different to me, but I just couldn't put my finger on it. Their hair doesn't normally look like this. They don't normally have blue mohawks. And that's when I realized, those aren't blue mohawks. Those are the plates that are normally on top of their heads. The plates are being kept at a 90-degree angle because the boss has been rotated 90 degrees. And I thought it was hilarious to see the plates standing up on top of the snakes' heads like this. The hitboxes of these snakes with the balanced plates on their heads were kind of funny, and you could stand both on top of the snakes' heads and on top of the plates that are above that. Mario can climb up these snakes, he can climb up these plates, and he can get the final hit on Hisstocrat. I also wanted to see upside down Hisstocrat that was raised up a bit, and when Hisstocrat was like this, there was nothing I could do to damage it. And when the little snakes came out of the ground, they were too high up for Mario to reach, so Mario couldn't do anything here. But something interesting that you might notice is that some of the snakes reach closer to the ground than others. So when you see in the regular fight that some snakes reach higher up than others, you now know that all these snakes are the same length, but some of them are just farther into the ground than others. Motley Bossblob was completely normal, but if you change its angle slightly, then you get a slightly different camera angle during the boss fight. And finally, the Tower of Bowserland. Here we go. Let's just head on over and start this Bowser cutscene. Oh, it looks like we're upside down. And Bowser is there. Oh, and what's that super bell doing all the way down there? It's normally supposed to be in Bowser's hand, and he puts it on like it's a collar. The camera zooms back and gives us a nice look at the floor here. And this is clearly an important focal point during this cutscene. We just have to focus on this floor right here. And then we see an upside down roaring Meowser. And what? Why did we die suddenly? It's not like we're doing anything strange in the game. Okay, I had to try that again. But this time I skipped the cutscene, and Mario's able to survive if you skip the cutscene. As Mario makes it up the tower, he gets to a POW block with Meowser camping the POW block. I'm not sure how we're supposed to get to that. I take some damage, but Mario is able to make it to the POW block and take out this Meowser. We continue on up the tower, and you can see this cracked wall here that's looking kind of suspicious. And out comes an upside down Meowser. I made some of these Meowsers that break through the walls upside down, and this Meowser here is not only upside down, but also backwards, so you can see its big cat tail wagging. More upside down Meowsers as we head on up the tower. We see these tiles down here are moving, and I'm not even sure what happens here. Some Meowsers sink down there suddenly. I head on up the tower, and this Meowser here is rotated, so I'm wondering how to even get around him, because he's not supposed to be out here yet, because the wall isn't broken yet. I try to go around, but I fall down, so I have to do this again. This time, I just stay close to the wall and I run by, and Mario can get by safely. We've got a few Meowsers and a few strange orientations, and we're getting close to the top now. Here's what the top normally looks like before we make this Meowser upside down. This is what Meowser at the top of the tower looks like if he's upside down. The Sprixies aren't in the jar, so I'm not sure why they're just standing there if they could just fly away freely. And we've got another upside down Meowser up to the side of the tower here. I wanted to move our upside down Meowser up a bit so that he isn't covered by the POW block too much. And since this Meowser is facing the wrong way, it's funny to see him shooting fire upward instead of to the bottom platform where Mario is now. Quite the interesting scene we have got going on here. And let's hit that POW block. Meowser sinks through the floor. A cutscene plays of an upside down Meowser sinking through the floor while he's trying to reach for an empty glass jar, and he is launched far below the level. The camera zooms back up, and somehow Meowser is now being launched up. And there's an explosion. And to top it all off, there's of course an upside down Bowser firework. The glass jar floats up, past the Sprixies, way up into the clouds, and the glass jar shatters. The Sprixies were already free! We can see them free already! Where is this camera taking us? Mario heads on into the pipe, getting ready to celebrate with the rescued Sprixies. The camera zooms in on these super interesting bricks right here. Look at this brick in particular. Wow, it is no surprise that the camera is focusing on these bricks right here. I tilted the flag so that it's at an angle, and this makes it look like all of the Sprixies are staring at the shadow of the flagpole because they're super interested in it. Mario jumps up and climbs to the top of the flagpole, then he poofs to the bottom of the flagpole, then he slides up the flagpole to the base of the flagpole. The camera zooms out, and it focuses on some more interesting bricks. Mario is very happy to have cleared the course, and we finally rescued all of the Sprixies that weren't even in a jar. If you like seeing what is possible in games for both regular gameplay and hacking, in this video there is obviously a lot of hacking, you might enjoy some of my other videos. A big thank you to my Patreon supporters for supporting my content creation, and a big thank you to you for watching this video. I hope that you all have a fantastic day ahead of you, and take care everybody.